Hello, I'm Beth Joey and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, welcome. This is the channel where I paint my face, turn my camera on and talk about books that I love. So today I have decided to try my hand at vlogging, which is not something I've ever tried before. Well, that's a lie actually. I've tried it once and it wasn't very good. It was very boring. So I decided to delete it and never posted it. I'm gonna give it a go. Sorry, I need to take a breath. I'm like really puffed for no reason. First of all, February is LGBT History Month, which I didn't know until I started Googling sort of like national days. I wanted to find out, you know, when different days in the year were so I could sort of build my content around that. Now for me, I thought this was a really important opportunity to really take with both hands, to read a lot more LGBT fiction, be it romance or otherwise, as well as learn a bit more about the history of the LGBT movement. All I really know about is Stonewall riots, and even that is like very vague. So I've gone and bought a bunch of books that I want to read in the month of February to really educate myself. But first of all, I just wanted to do this vlog, which is essentially me picking the 5 highest rated books on my TBR that are LGBT romances. The 5 books that I want to read in this reading vlog that I've just picked are Heartstopper by Oseman, Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston, The Coldest Touch by Isabel Sterling, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Jenkins Reid, and then Afterlove by Tanya Byrne. So I'm going to get started on The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and I will give you updates as I go through. Okay, I'm back and I'm exactly 25% through The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Jenkins Reid. I am absolutely loving this so far. There is so much to gather from it, so much to gain from it, so much to learn. I have been writing notes down like every 20 pages or so with my thoughts, feelings, reactions, everything to everything going on in the story. So yeah, let's go through some of those. I love it when a story is told through so many different mediums, and 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo definitely does that. There's a number of sections throughout that kind of are told in news articles, and I'm really liking reading about the sort of press reaction to Evelyn at the time and reading that sort of 60s style as well. I mean, from the moment that Monique meets Evelyn, you can tell that there's love there, there's admiration there, and it really sets you up for the sort of romantic style of the rest of the book in the way that Monique takes so much care in how she describes Evelyn. But it's also kind of an interesting like juxtaposition, which I love using that word, in that Monique talks about Evelyn with such admiration, such beauty, but then the way Evelyn talks about herself is very different. She talks about herself as like a tool to be used to gain what she wants, which is this like fame and stardom and getting out of the Hell's Kitchen, I think is what it's called, where she grew up. And I mean, the last thing I want to say is just this story makes me want to scream and cry. Like it exposes so much misogyny in the story itself in the 60s, and then also in Monique's timeline as well. You get Don, for example, who's clearly a narcissistic misogynist who can't stand to not be in the spotlight, who can't stand to not be amazing at everything, and he takes that out on Evelyn. You've got Ari, who literally controls Evelyn's career. You've got the press, who are sort of shaming her for not wanting a nuclear family, for wanting to put her career first, and they're, you know, telling her she's not performing her wifely duties. And then even in the current timeline, you've got David, who basically leaves Monique and, you know, throws away their entire marriage because she's refusing to move across the world for him or across the country for him. For now, I've got to keep reading for a little bit longer because I'm really excited to sort of see how this second marriage kind of unfolds and how it ends, obviously. And we know that it ends because there's 7 husbands. And then I've got to go and make some dinner, so I'll probably try to include some like artsy footage of that, see how that goes. And then I'm going to do some editing tonight and potentially watch Jack Ryan, which is a new TV show. Well, not a new TV show, but it's a TV show that I've recently gotten really into. I'm in the 2nd season now. So that is my plan for the rest of the evening, so I will see you guys in my next check-in. So since I last did an update, I'm about a quarter through the book, and I'm really beginning to understand why Evelyn is so against letting the media be a part of her life. It's like they really felt entitled to it. So I'm curious about what she sort of saw in Monique that made her want to reach out, considering, you know, Monique is based in that sort of media landscape. I'm also really beginning to wonder if Evelyn even knows what love is. Every relationship she's been in has kind of felt like an exchange of power or of fame or something like that, and it doesn't feel like anything's really on equal footing. Evelyn's kind of always manipulating everyone, and she keeps thinking, I think, that, you know, no matter what she does, the people she loves are going to forgive her. And that inherent narcissism, I'm kind of not loving it at the moment. It'll be interesting to see how much longer she's really able to keep that belief going for. My only other note is that I completely understand that it's a very, very different time period, and so the social norms and the social constructs are incredibly different to how it is nowadays. But the idea of every problem that Evelyn's ever had being able to be solved by a man is just completely like soul destroying to me. It has me feeling so hopeless, but it does feel repetitive. It does feel very predictable, because every time something goes wrong, it's like, right, who am I gonna marry next? For now, I need to take my makeup off, I need to brush my teeth, I need to get ready for bed, maybe read another 50 pages or so. I'm really determined to get this book finished by tomorrow morning so I can get into one of my other books next. I think I'm going to read Heartstopper tomorrow, just because I'm in the mood for something kind of easier to read, but I'll decide tomorrow once I figure out what I'm in the mood for. Good morning, I am back after finishing The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Jenkins Reid. I feel like I need to go and have a good cry for like an hour after reading this book. It was just so heavy in the last like 50 to 100 pages, just all the tears. As for my thoughts on the last half of this book, the first thing I wrote down when I sort of got another 50 or so pages in was just everything in Evelyn's life felt like this massive facade, this massive fake relationship, fake life. Evelyn never really gave herself to anyone in any way, even Celia. It just killed me that she never opened her heart up enough to anyone, to let anyone in when she had so many opportunities for happiness. But obviously her dream kind of came above all of that, and her quest for power within herself and within the world that she worked in. But I also think everyone else in her life was putting up a front as well, particularly Don and Celia, who I think are two of the most integral, the biggest characters in this book, aside from Evelyn and Monique, obviously. And they had a lot more in common than I think anyone's willing to admit, because Celia is supposed to be this great love, and then Don obviously is this great abuser. If you think about it, neither of them were really willing to let Evelyn have the spotlight. Both of them really, really wanted to be the star of the show, and were quite cruel to Evelyn when that wasn't the case. At the end of the day, I just spent so much of this book flip-flopping between, is Evelyn a hero or a villain? Is she inherently good or just completely bad? And I don't think that you ever really get an answer at the end of this book. I think it's just Evelyn is a person. She made good and bad decisions. She is a product of her time. She is a product of her upbringing, and there are just no rose-colored glasses in the way her story is told. And I really appreciate that throughout the book, Jenkins Reid and Evelyn, the character of Evelyn, made it very, very clear that she didn't want there to be any rose-colored glasses. She just wanted this to be an honest account, and she wanted to finally reveal herself to the world as a bisexual woman. And I loved that honesty, and I find that it just really challenged the stereotype of needing to label a character as good or bad, as being a hero or a villain. As for my overall thoughts of the book, I gave it 5 stars. I think it was absolutely incredible. It was so moving, it was so hard hitting. As for Monique, I think she learned a lot from Evelyn. I really, really loved her story and how she was kind of this self-discovery in a way, and she learned from Evelyn's mistakes and then also learned from Evelyn's advice, which I thought was really important. And it was just a really beautiful, well-rounded ending to the book that, you know, she didn't want to get in Evelyn's way. She just wanted to admire this woman and tell the truth. So I definitely really, really need to read something easy next, something really just easier to read, quicker to read. So I've decided that I'm going to pick up Heartstopper Volume 1 and Volume 2. I have actually already read Heartstopper Volume 1, so I'm not technically counting this as part of this vlog, but I wanted to reread it to sort of remind myself what happened in the first volume. And then what I'm actually going to vlog is reading Heartstopper Volume 2. As for right this very minute, I am going to eat the remainders of the kebab that I got for dinner last night because I'm so hungry and there was so much of that I couldn't finish it. Then I'm gonna get stuck into Heartstopper. So I will see you when I am a little bit more of the way through these books. am back. I did not do nearly as much reading as I had planned to do yesterday. As for today, you can probably see I'm all dressed with my coat and everything and all the ruffly noises in the background. I am heading out into the city today because I found out there is a bookshop on a boat on the Thames, which of course I can't not see. Like, that's incredible. So I'm gonna go see that today, go have a couple cocktails with Ben, and then hopefully get stuck into some more reading tonight and do a proper like spring clean of my flat because it's getting ridiculously messy at the moment. As you probably expect, I'm going to take you along with me to the bookstore, get some nice artsy shots and that sort of thing. But yeah, I will see you when I actually finally get started on Heartstopper. And I'm back. I went to Word on the Water, which is the bookshop which is on Regent's Canal around King's Cross and Pancras in London. I think I said before it was on the Thames, but yeah, it's on Regent's Canal. It was beautiful. It had such a homey feel. I had this like smoky smell because there was a fireplace in the corner. It was just the coolest thing I've ever seen in terms of like a bookshop, and just a creative place to put one and a creative way to display these amazing books that they had. Of course, because I went to a bookshop and it was a special one, I had to get something, so I bought Girl A by Abigail Dean. I don't know a lot about this book, but I know that when I first started my booktube channel, this book was all the rage. A lot of people were talking about it. So I saw it and I was like, you know what, I used to see this book everywhere and I never read it, and it's always been on my TBR, so why not? And I picked it up. As for the rest of the day, it's definitely very dreary in London at the moment, so it's gonna be a very chill, indoorsy sort of day. And then I need to finally actually pick up Heartstopper Volume 1 and Volume 2, and I'm determined to read both of those today because they're both like graphic novels. I should be able to get through them quite quickly. So that is my plan for today. I will check back in with you once I have read some more of Heartstopper and let you know my thoughts. So I'll see you soon. So it's been about 45 minutes since my last update and I've just finished Heartstopper Volume 1. I really forgot how quick and easy these books are to read because yeah, all the pictures and just the dialogue being the main thing that's actually printed on the page makes them really quick to just flick through. As I've already mentioned, I have actually read this book, but I did want to read it again because it's been a little while, so I wanted to read it before I sort of continued on with the rest of the series. And I think it is just such a sweet, lovely, character building introduction to the entire series. Both characters just feel really genuine, like they could just step off the page as they go through sort of both the normal struggles that you go through in high school, so feeling like you don't fit in, and then the additional struggles on top of that, especially with Nick because he's really confused obviously because he's seen himself this one way his entire life, and then all of a sudden he's beginning to have feelings that he doesn't understand for Charlie, and it's really interesting to sort of watch that play out and watch him kind of come to terms in his own mind with the feelings that he's having now and trying to figure out what they are. And then I'm loving just watching Charlie begin to stand up for himself. He's obviously had some experience with bullies. He was really heavily bullied as he came out in high school, and it's nice to see that he's kind of recovered from that, but like the anxiety is still there of not really knowing where he fits in with everybody, and if everybody is like talking about him behind his back. And it's really interesting to see how that anxiety is kind of portrayed in the pictures, as like you get the dark border around him and all the questions coming up on his head. And yeah, it's the way that that's shown I think is really creative and really effective because you feel the tension build up in yourself as you read those and you read the thoughts that he's thinking as he's overthinking things. But through his relationship with Nick, he's really beginning to open up and he's beginning to stand up for himself, in particular with Ben, and see himself as more than just like that gay kid in the school, and actually as a valuable person who deserves more than what he's been experiencing in the past. So yeah, I loved this first book. I gave it 4 stars. I'm excited to get into Volume 2, so I will pick that up now and give you my thoughts in a bit. Okay, so it's been about another hour and it's starting to get really dark because London is weird and gets dark at like 4 p.m. But anyway, I have finished Heartstopper Volume 2. I decided when I was going through this that I wasn't going to sort of do the interval updates as I did with The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, just because this is a lot quicker to read and I think I'd be spending a lot of time or more time on the camera rather than actually reading the novel, and I just really wanted to get stuck into it and really in the moment with it. And I just have to say, this series just keeps getting better and better. I think Nick and Charlie's romance is so sweet, so adorable. I just want to wrap them up in a little ball and bottle them, and yeah, it's just, they're so cute, so sweet. I love how clearly happy they are together and how comfortable they are together, but I also really respect Charlie for the fact that he's not really pressuring Nick into coming out, into declaring their romance to anybody, because Charlie understands what it's like to be sort of going through this confusing time and figuring out who you are, even though Charlie's always kind of known, he said so himself. But you know, he doesn't want to pressure Nick into anything because it's scary, it's daunting to be having these feelings that you don't completely understand. Unfortunately, high school bullies are just a fact of life. They are horrible and I hate them, but it was definitely important that the character of Harry was included in this book, because homophobia in boys' schools and just in general is just all too common. So the character of Harry, as much as I hate him with a passion, he did need to be there because he represents a very real type of person that finds enjoyment in ruining other people's lives and sees Nick and Charlie as very easy targets. But on the more positive side of things, I did really appreciate the acceptance that Nick and Charlie found in their other sort of friends and family groups. And I just really can't wait to see where this story goes next in Volume 3. I'm hoping the library, you know, gets it to me soon so I can read it, but to be honest, I'm probably gonna buy this series because I'm really loving it. So now that I have finished Heartstopper Volume 1 and Volume 2, I am going to get stuck into a sapphic romance, and that is Afterlove by Tanya Byrne. This is a very awesome sort of special edition copy. I don't know, I got it in a Fairy Lit subscription box and I've been sort of eyeing it up for a really long time, so I'm definitely keen to get stuck into it. Afterlove, from what I do know about it, follows a girl by the name of Ash who dies in a car accident and then receives an invite from the afterlife to join a fierce girl group of Reapers, I believe. But upon receiving this invite, Ash still can't forget her very first love, Poppy, and she will just do anything to try and see her again, even if it's only for a few minutes, dead or alive. So I'm really excited to get stuck in. I have no expectations, I don't really understand the concept, but I'm keen to see what it's about and hopefully love it. So I will check in with you guys in a bit. Morning. It is now Sunday. I didn't do many updates yesterday because I went out to this beautiful market around King's Cross, and then also to a bookshop which was floating along Regent's Canal, which was really fun. But I did end up getting home and reading some more of, or reading just in general, of Afterlove by Tanya Byrne. I mean, 8 pages in, my very first thought was, well, damn. It definitely really set the scene and kickstarted the fact that this book would inevitably be about death. But as I got a little bit further into the book, I definitely started to cringe more than I did enjoy it, just because the two characters, the two women in this book, Ash and Poppy, went all in on their relationship very quickly. And I get that in high school everything feels like it's, you know, the be all and end all, and it all feels like your heart's going to explode, but it just felt very intense for two girls who'd literally just spent one day together. And then I got to where I am now, which is about 40% of the way through this book, and I'm not 100% sure that I'm going to get to the end of it unless it really picks up. The writing style feels quite immature. A lot of the circumstances that happen to these two girls feel like they're happening because they kind of have to. As for my plans for the rest of today, I need to do a lot more filming. I have pretty much no videos prepped for February or really the end of January, so I need to get some filming done because I'm in about the middle of January now. I've also just done like a massive clean of my flat, so now everything is tidy, everything is put away, but I'm really hungry, so I need to have some lunch. And then it's going to be either finishing Afterlove or putting it down and then moving on to The Coldest Touch by Isabel. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to get to Red, White and Royal Blue in this vlog because I was supposed to be picking it up from the library today, but then all of a sudden it said it wasn't available anymore, so I don't know, did someone else pick it up? So yeah, that is my plans for the rest of today. I will update you when I am a little bit further into Afterlove and let you know whether or not I actually continue reading it. Okay, so I am 63% into Afterlove by Tanya Byrne, and I'm still not really loving it. I don't understand what the point of the story is to be, other than like heartbreak from the perspective of the person who's just died. I don't get what the point is. I don't get what the overarching sort of message is. I don't get what the overarching plot is. It just kind of feels like a bunch of circumstances thrown together. It doesn't feel connected to me, so I'm not loving this. I also just think the rules in this particular world, I guess, aren't really very clear. I'm really confused. I don't really understand what the point is. I am gonna keep reading because I do want to know what happens next, and I do want to finally understand what the point is. I'm quite frustrated, so I want to know, but I don't think this is really gonna get a very high rating from me, which feels horrible because I've been really looking forward to this and I thought the premise was really exciting. There was a movie with Zoe Deutsch, I think it is, called Before I Fall, and this kind of reminded me of that, and I really love that movie, so I thought I'd really love this. But yeah, it's just not quite living up to my expectations, so I'm gonna keep going, but yeah, I don't think it's gonna get a very good rating. Hello. So it is about 7 p.m. on Sunday night and I've just finished reading Afterlove by Tanya Byrne, and I have to say, it's only January, but this is already a strong contender for my most disappointing book of the year, which makes me so sad because I had such high hopes for this book. It reminded me of this movie I really love starring Zoe Deutsch, called Before I Fell, I think. And you know, the whole premise just sounded really fascinating, but unfortunately the execution just felt really immature and really cliche as well. As I said, I thought the execution was really immature, and I felt like the romance itself was very insular, very intense, very all-encompassing for two girls who, yes, are in high school, and I get that everything is always, you know, dramatic and crazy and overwhelming in high school, but these girls had only known each other for about 6 months and they were willing to literally risk everything for each other. It really bothered me that Ash hardly shed a tear for a single family member or friend that she'd known for obviously years and years, but then when it came to Poppy, she was like, right, I'm gonna risk everything so that I can have the last couple of days with her. I'm gonna change how this sort of death experience is completely just so I can be with her again. Like, it felt very intense, and it bothered me that she just didn't have that same level of devotion to her family. The moral of the story was pretty much directly stated a number of times throughout the book. It was very repetitive, and there were just a number of scenes in the book that felt like they didn't really add any value to the story. They didn't fit in with the rest of the story. They felt like they were there because the author was trying to make a point about the state of bias and prejudice against people in the LGBT community today. And whilst that's an incredibly important point to make, I think more people need to learn that, you know, not everything's solved just because we have Pride and it's more openly celebrated. It didn't fit in with this book. It didn't feel relevant because this story wasn't about acceptance so much as it was about love. I gave this book 1 star. It's probably going to be one of my most disappointing books of 2021 because I was so excited for it. Now I'm up to my last book for this reading vlog. I will be reading still The Coldest Touch by Isabel Sterling. Again, I've heard quite a few good things about this, so I'm hoping it's not the case with Afterlove where I hear good things and then it's not great. I'm hoping that it'll be just a really sweet sapphic romance, and I'll finish this reading vlog on a high. So I will update you once I've read a bit more into this one, and yeah, we'll see how we go. Hello, hello. I am about 10% into The Coldest Touch by Isabel and I'm actually quite enjoying it at the moment. I do ask myself, I do wonder why I picked so many death-related books for this vlog. Like, for example, The Coldest Touch is about a girl who can see the death of other people. Then you've got The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which has obviously got a lot of death scattered throughout it and a lot of trauma scattered throughout it. And then I did Afterlove by Tanya Byrne, which is about a girl who dies and wants to see the love of her life again. So much death in this reading vlog, and I didn't intend for it to be so dark, and I'm kind of annoyed because I was really hoping for something light after reading Afterlove, and this isn't really that. So I'm hoping that the romance really kicks in soon so that, you know, it could bring some light with it. As I said, I'm getting major high school nostalgia when I read this book, and I'm really loving it. I'm also getting a lot of like the Vampire Diaries comparisons coming to mind. I'm also finding Elise's curse/power thing really interesting because it's obviously traumatic for her because she can't make human connection with anyone without seeing them die. So all her friends and family, she knows how they're gonna die, and that must be incredibly difficult. So the way that she's closed herself off from everyone is really interesting to watch because it's just this internal battle constantly. Like, I want to be able to reach out to these people, but I can't because then I'm gonna see how they die. So it's really fascinating watching that, and then also watching the story of grief throughout the start of this book. Her brother's just died, and her and her mum look a lot like her brother, so they're kind of okay. Like, they're not okay, they're you know, they're missing him and it's horrible, but like in comparison to her dad, they're coping quite well, I think. But then her dad, because he's constantly confronted by these two women that look insanely like the son he's just lost, he completely disconnects. It is starting quite slowly, so I am struggling to just find the motivation to keep picking up a book, but I'm determined to keep going, so I will check in with you guys again in a little bit. I am about 50% into The Coldest Touch. It's been a couple hours, I've read a bit more, and I've been looking for words to describe this book, and teen angst. Those are the words. And melodrama. That's another word. The only thing that I'm not loving is, I get like fantasy books 99% of the time, they do revolve around a person who has this unknown ability that's gonna change the world, and you know, the main person in the story tends to be like the hero. And I'm not against that, but the way that this is done is kind of poorly executed. It just feels really cliche and unrealistic. I prefer it when in sort of vampire romances when the blood drinking part is kind of glossed over and the vampire is incredibly romanticized, and this definitely isn't the case in this book. So if you like the sort of brutal honesty of the sort of vampire thing, then you're gonna love this. 2 to 3 stars at the moment, and that's just because it just feels a bit cliche. I'm enjoying like the romance, the mutual pining and all that sort of thing, but the actual fantasy sort of element and the paranormal element just feels really strange. It doesn't sit right with me, but anyway, yeah, 2.5 to 3 stars, I reckon. It has been an effort and a half, but I have finally finished The Coldest Touch by Isabel Sterling. I'm kind of torn because, yeah, I'm giving this 1 star because I didn't love it. But I partially think that half the reason why I didn't love it so much is because I've read so many death-related LGBT books in this vlog that once I got to this one, I was kind of like, ugh, like, can't someone just be alive? As much as I can appreciate and respect and love how this book dealt with love, loss, sexual identity, grief, all those sorts of things, it just felt very melodramatic, very cliche, and I get that a lot of that is because it's set in high school, so it's supposed to be kind of nostalgic, kind of immature, but it got old, and it felt so woke to the point that every time a new character was introduced and their background was explained, I kind of just rolled my eyes and was like, oh, come on, like, another situation that doesn't need to be there. And then I think Elise's coming into power storyline, which is something that I really look forward to when I read fantasy books, was just completely glossed over. It was like, all of a sudden, one minute she didn't have power, and then the next minute she was like, oh, I know everything, I can do whatever I want now. I did think that Claire and Elise's relationship, while sweet at times and with plenty of mutual pining, which I am never going to say no to, it did feel predatory at times and overprotective, especially on Claire's part. Over half this book was world building, character building, setting the scene, that sort of thing. So that tells me there is definitely going to be a sequel. But I am probably not going to read it because I'm just not interested. And that makes me sad because I was really looking forward to this one. So I gave it 1 star. And we made it! This is the end of reading the top 5 highest rated LGBT books on my TBR. They just also happen to be romances as well. I am still committed to reading Red, White and Royal Blue. That is so far up my TBR you would not believe. So when I do finally read that, I will be sure to let you guys know. I got a notification today that it's actually ready to be picked up from the library, but I do not want to extend this reading vlog any further. Let me know your thoughts of any of the books that I've read. If you've loved them, if you hated them, let me know if you agree with any of my thoughts or if you want to read any of these books after hearing what I thought about them. As always, like, subscribe and hit that notification bell to be notified when I release new content, but you don't have to, only if you want to, you know, just do what you want. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!